As you may remember from the class on GDP, the most important part of GDP is consumption. In this portion of the lecture, we will look at the components of consumption and some of the ways economists measure the individual's consumption habits. We will also focus a little on savings because savings is the residual money left over after a person consumes. Consumption can be divided up into two parts: autonomous consumption and consumption based upon income. Autonomous consumption is spending which incurs independently of income. Autonomous consumption is consumption that happens to satisfy basic needs such as food, shelter, but may not necessarily always include these things. Autonomous consumption is usually funded by savings or by unemployment insurance. The key thing to understand about autonomous consumption is that it's not dependent on the amount of time one works. Finally, there is consumption that is based on income. One of the things that economists like to do is graph things, and the relationship between income and consumption is no different. Economists call this graph a consumption function because it shows the relationship between a person's income and their consumption. Let's take a look at the details of the graph. The back and forth axis is the income axis. Income increases as the viewer moves from left to right. The up and down axis is consumption, and consumption or the spending of income increases as the viewer moves upward. The consumption function is a graph that shows the relationship between an individual's, and as we will see later, an entire economy's income and their consumption. When Joe's income is zero, he consumes $30 worth of goods and services. Consumption at this point is called autonomous consumption because it is consumption that is not dependent on Joe's income. When Joe's income is $100, he consumes $100 worth of goods and services. When his income grows to $200, he controls $170 worth of goods and services. When Joe's income is $300, he consumes $240 worth of goods and services. When Joe's income is $400, he consumes $310 worth of goods and services. When Joe's income is $500, he consumes $380 worth of goods and services. When Joe's income is $600, he consumes $450 worth of goods and services. When Joe's income is $700, he consumes $520 worth of goods and services. Economists like to graph things, and the relationship between income and saving is no difference. Economists call this graph a savings function graph. Let's look at the details of the graph. The back and forth axis is the income axis, and income increases as the viewer moves from left to right. The up and down axis measures savings. Savings increases as the viewer moves in an upward direction. The savings function shows the relationship between an individual's, and as we'll see later on, an economy's income and their saving habits. When Joe's income is zero, he saves a minus $30. This level of negative saving, or using savings to support consumption, is called Disent Saving. When Joe's income is $100, he saves $0. When Joe's income is $200, he saves $30. When his income is $300, he saves $60. When Joe's income is $400, he saves $90. When Joe's income is $500, he saves $120. When Joe's income is $600, he saves $150. And when Joe's income is $700, he saves $180.